Hey, what's up, guys? I'm Jermaine. Welcome to the 91 Box channel, and I'm coming to you with a reaction video where it's with a atheist versus a Christian versus a spiritual thinker. So we're on the Diary of a CEO YouTube channel, and I have the video here at the hour and 7 minute mark and 1 second, but we have the host asking the panel essentially how to find meaning. So Greg Kokel, he's a Christian, Christian apologist. I'm a Christian. I'm a follower of Jesus. Should have never done that, but yeah, Greg Kokel is a Christian. I'm a Christian, and I want to highlight this section right here of like, how do we find meaning? A lot of people have questions on how do they find meaning in life. Some people try to make up their own meaning or find other religions. I believe Jesus Christ is the way, the truth, and the life. I believe you could find meaning in Christianity because I believe he's the one true God. So I'm definitely on Greg Kokel's team. But we have Alex O'Connor, who's an atheist. He's going to be in this conversation as well. And then I believe Dr.K, I believe he's a therapist, and then also like a virtual gamer. But let's see what they actually say.
What would you prescribe him? What would you recommend? What would you suggest as he's your friend?
It's hard to know without knowing that friend. But if it seemed to me like going to church or reading the Gospels might provide that for him, then I'd probably recommend that he did that. But I think that literally the subjective feeling of meaning is usually tied up in the identification of something that transcends your individual self.
Yeah. Well,
right?
Why would you,
and I think whatever is the most plausible course of action for that person to engage in something like that would be what I would recommend for them. If they're
Okay, so that's very interesting that Alex O'Connor, who's an atheist, points that out. What would you recommend the interviewer? I forget his name, but he asked him, what would you recommend to your friend on finding meaning? And Alex O'Connor recommended going to church, Christianity. That don't really make any sense to me if you're an atheist. However, I guess from an atheist standpoint, or at least from Alex O'Connor's standpoint, he would suggest, hey, since you're my friend, I want the best for you. You should go to Christianity. But I think the problem to that is that Christianity actually knocks out atheism. Christianity goes against atheism because atheists, I think the general definition is that they don't believe that there's a God. So you're telling your friend to go to a belief system that believes that there's a God, and that belief system knocks out your own belief system of no God. I don't know. It sounds like a conundrum to me, but let's continue what he has to say.
Maybe they're not particularly interested in religion. I'd recommend that they read some philosophy of mind and try to understand the nature of consciousness. And I might recommend, depending on who they are, that they take a psychedelic drug and try to experience something which cannot be put into words.
Okay. As smart as Alex O'Connor is, so he goes off into giving different options to help his friend, depending on who that friend is. And telling your friend to take a psychedelic drug, there may be some good experiences, but a lot of times it doesn't really work out that way. So is that really good advice to find meaning? Which, let's just say most of the time they take a psychedelic drug, it's a good experience. Then you're telling your friend to go use a substance that's only going to give you this temporary experience of meaning. And you can only find this meaning in taking this drug. Like, let's say that's the good route. Why go and do that? How is this? you're spending money on taking drugs to get high, and this is one of the only ways to find meaning. But you're not even sober, so it doesn't make any sense. Alex O'Connor, I think that advice is a bad advice. Don't tell your friend. I don't recommend it. Do not tell your friend to go take a psychedelic drug to find meaning. But let's continue.
Because a lot of the time when you experience something like an ego death, and you might realize that the individuated self is an illusion, and that these cliches that keep cropping up when someone does psychedelics. And I actually think that the problem of consciousness is absolutely crucial to this. I think the most plausible account of consciousness implies that consciousness is something which is sort of received by the biological organism rather than produced by it. Because I agree with you that you can't just put a bunch of molecules together and get consciousness. That doesn't make any sense whatsoever. But it's interesting that some of our best scientific evidence is suggesting the fact not that the brain produces consciousness, but that the brain inhibits and focuses and organizes consciousness. It does not produce it.
Yeah, so I love your answer. So you were saying, depending on the person, you can do different things. You can read philosophy of
So I'd
mind.
recommend them to do that, in other words, to look at that, depending on who they are.
Read the...
Okay. I will give Alex O'Connor credit. He throws it out as an option. Hey, you do this, but he doesn't recommend it. That sounds like a contradiction, but I'll give him credit that he withdraw his statement on that he does not recommend that. So Alex O'Connor, good for you. That's actually a good save on your part.
Gospels. So I think what's interesting is that when when Stephen gives the concrete example of like, if my friend comes to you who's had this religious awakening or prior to religious awakening, what would you recommend to them? And I think what's really interesting is basically all of the answers that you said, I think, can map onto mechanism. And I just love to talk about that for a second. So the first thing is, you asked me at the beginning, am I religious? I think here's my understanding of, and we were talking a little bit about, people can have this
of the person who writes the book or pushes the boulder up the hill. And can that person have a purposeful life?
Absolutely. So this is what's so confusing for people, is that people think. So what Alex is saying, I think, is a really, really common representation of what people think about purpose. My purpose is to make something that is greater than me. My purpose is to have some meaning or impact in the world around me. What we know is there's a great example of this called self-determination theory, which is that if you look at people who have purpose, what you find is it's not about anything transcendent.
Have purpose or have a sense of purpose?
Have a sense of purpose. Okay, we're asking them subjectively.
Yeah.
Right. So if we're
having purpose or a sense of purpose, did I get that right? Or let me backtrack a little bit.
What you find is it's not about anything transcendent.
Have purpose or have a sense of purpose?
Have a sense of...
What's the difference? Having a sense of purpose or having purpose? I'm assuming having a sense, meaning it's not real, but you think of it as real, versus having purpose is actualized. Guys, become a Christian. And find good apologists. I recommend apologists and scholars. If you're an intellectual or a skeptic like myself, I think, oh my God, this keeps getting in the way. I think that helps, they give you a lot of head knowledge, but also going to a good church. Let's continue.
Purpose. Okay, we're asking them subjectively.
Yeah.
Right. So if we're and that's what I think. And these people are less likely to be addicted to things, are more resilient, tend to be subjectively happier as well. So we're talking about subjective, right?
Okay. This is my thing. Self-determination. It sounds good on the surface. I see what Dr. K is saying, and he's trying to make a good effort, but is it sustainable? long term, who's going to have a stronger drive and purpose? A person who has a transcendent reason for what they're doing on the earth, or a person who has a subjective, personal self-determination of what they want to do? Are they going to keep their minds set on that purpose? Or are they going to change their mind when things get tough? Are they going to change their mind if they don't see any results? Are they going to change their mind when they're on a new wave, or they're in a new season in life where they have a new vibe? Like, you know what? I thought this was my purpose. I've changed it to something else. Is it even sustainable? I think the Christian path is eternally sustainable. So I'll say this is a good interview with these three guys, with Alex O'Connor, Dr. K, and Greg Kokel. The interview is like 3 hours and 21 minutes. You guys can actually go check the full video out on the Diary of a CEO YouTube channel. We're gonna go here. But yeah, guys, they get into a lot of different topics, but you got an atheist, a Christian, and a spiritual thinker. And in this, I listened to the whole podcast throughout my workday, and I hear a lot of things that don't really have a strong foundation when it comes to some of the ideas that the atheist brings up and the spiritual thinker. They make good points. They make some good points. But in terms of a strong foundation, Greg Kokel definitely comes out on top on this. But again, I want to hear your thoughts. Let me know what you guys think. Do you think the Christian just kind of falls flat? Do you like what the atheist said? Do you think the atheist have a stronger foundation, or the spiritual thinker does? Let me know in the comment section below. All right, guys. I'll see you guys in the next video.